Hello, everyone, and welcome to Literary Tales. I'm your host, Paul Krause, and in this episode, we conclude our three-part examination of the trilogy of American classics of the American Renaissance with the greatest and most eternal of American works, Herman Melville's Moby Dick. While Hawthorne and Cooper challenged the religious and political optimism of hopeful innocence respectively, Melville provided the most dazzling critique of the fantasy of innocent economic optimism in Moby Dick. More than any other classic work of 19th century American literature, Moby Dick is a direct challenge to Crevecoeur's thesis. Perhaps fittingly, the famous opening lines of Moby Dick evoke that idea of the American new man. Call me Ishmael. The opening of Moby Dick is actually ambiguous when you think about it in light of Crevecoeur's thesis. Call me Ishmael is a command. It is not I am Ishmael or my name is Ishmael. Rather, call me Ishmael is a command, presenting the authorial protagonist as a self-created identity, like Crevecoeur's American Farmer. Crevecoeur's New American Farmer, however, is at home with the pastoral ideal. Ishmael, as becomes clear through Captain Ahab's vain and destructive pursuit of the great white whale, cannot find that home, and when he does, it is only in the carcasses of whales and on the planks of a destroyed ship waiting for rescue. Ishmael's pastoral home is always fleeting. He is everywhere enclosed by the realities of the technological civilization he is enslaved to. Melville is unique among American writers in having scorned the romantic pastoralism as a fantastical dream. But as Melville aged and grew wiser, he became alienated from the very mechanistic and industrial urbanism which had originally held him captive. Melville's own dynamic movement away from the horrors of industrial progressivism toward a sympathy but not outright endorsement of the pastoral ideal is played out for us in Ishmael and Ishmael's contrast with Ahab. Ishmael, like Ahab, originally informs us that he is joining the Pequod because of the overwhelming idea of the great white whale himself and the need for getting paid. Ishmael goes even further, giving the standard economic argument of progress and peace as to why whalers are the true wheel of the comfort and peace of the world. Ishmael here is Crevecoeur's ideal American. There is an original innocence to Ishmael in befriending Queequeg and his description of New Bedford, the pleasant, tranquil town they visit before their departure. But like the rest of the crew, Ishmael is in submissive unity with Ahab's insane pursuit. Everyone, Ishmael included, is united in Ahab's pursuit of the whale, which is, as Ahab reveals through his various speeches, the pursuit of absolute power for the sake of dominion more than the attempt to rid nature of evil or to get revenge, though these motivations are part of Ahab's progressivist outlook of domination and transformation of the natural world. As the Pequod sails ever further out into sea, alienation from nature grows exponentially in Ishmael. What symbolically should have served as his coming home to nature becomes his ascent to power and enslavement to the world of power. Ishmael, serving on the top of the masthead and peering out over the vast expanse of space, time, and nature, becomes lost in the serenity of it all, only to fall back into that world of enslavement and power. Ishmael is briefly overcome by a spirit of enchantment that he had never before experienced, an enchantment that blends naturalism with lyrical psalmody. In this enchanted mood, thy spirit ebbs away to whence it came, becomes diffused through time and space. Ishmael finally experiences the watery pastorals on the serene, unconscious ideal of the waters of the Atlantic. But while Ishmael is experiencing a new birth, Ahab speaks to the crew and reminds them of the dangers of nature, the whale, and the dream of gold plunder and economic progress. Ishmael didn't crash and burn in his transcendental pantheist moment, but is rather dragged back into the chains of material reality by Ahab's speech. Power, not enchantment, is the purpose of the Pequod's mission. There are those of us who sail to experience that transcendental, pantheistic, naturalistic reality, but that is not what is going to happen in this whaling ship. Through the contrast of Ishmael and Ahab, Melville pits the two kingdoms of the world against each other. The kingdom of enchantment, romantic and nonsensical as it is at times, stands athwart the kingdom of power and its destructive and domineering purposes. Melville, however, through the despondency and madness of Ahab, plunges a dagger into the heart of Crevecoeur's thesis, not to mention the Lockean liberalism that undergirds it. Ahab is not interested in power and dominion for the sake of a pleasing and pleasurable life of hedonistic comfort. O time was when, as the sunrise nobly spurred me, so the sunset soothed, no more. This lovely light, it lights not me. All loveliness is anguish to me, since I can never enjoy. Gifted with the high perception, I lack the low. Enjoying power, damned most subtly and most malignantly, damned in the mist of paradise. Ahab is invested in power for power's sake. Ahab's ego and will are united in the prideful attempt to destroy nature altogether, and in this process, man himself. In Ahab, Melville paints the gritty, realistic portrait of the Iron Way. While men like Crevecoeur and Locke may be telling us that we harness power and industriousness for the sake of comfort, the reality is we become addicted to technological power and dominion and must destroy the last remnants of unspoiled nature in that pursuit of power. Ishmael, however, begins to free himself over time from this enslavement to the Iron Way of Ahab and technological civilization. It is only through Ishmael's renunciation of the kingdom of power and his desire for the kingdom of enchantment that ultimately saves him by the novel's conclusion. The terrifying reality of economic industrialism and its destructive spirit to nature and to man is further realized as we approach the climactic battle between Ahab and Moby Dick. Machinery and fire are now the images that Melville uses to describe the preparation for the great conflagration. With huge pronged poles they pitched hissing masses of blubber into the scalding pots, or stirred up the fires beneath, till the snaky flames darted, curling out of the doors to catch them by the feet. The smoke rolled away in sullen heaps, their tawny features now all begrimed with smoke and sweat, their matted beards and the contrasting barbaric brilliance of their teeth. All these were strangely revealed in the capacious emblazoning of the works. The economic way of life, so lauded by Crevecoeur and Locke and the whole tradition of American economic optimism and progressivism, have a very demonic and dark undercurrent to it. On board the Pequod, man has become a slave to this economic adventure of power. He is alienated, alone, isolated, enslaved, detached from nature, and sans Ishmael, he dies because of it. The Pequod, as we know, is the moving symbol and representation of economic civilization on the march of destruction. The men are all of us. They are not self-made men. They are not free. They are enslaved and hammered into the machinery of progress and suffer and die as a result of this enslavement to materialism. Madness consumes Ahab over the course of the story. But here we must ask whether Ahab becomes mad or whether he was always mad to begin with. I believe Melville implies the latter. Ahab was always mad. It is only too late that we realize Ahab's madness, which has imperiled all of us. Ahab's supposed descent into madness and the horrifying realization that we, as readers, like the crew, Ishmael especially, know what is about to happen, is Melville's story of the crisis of man and civilization in the 19th century. What began in optimism, the adventure to hunt Moby Dick and to sail the seas, has become a terrifying and cruel descent into a mechanical hell. The Pequod story is our story. America began in optimism. It has fallen into a death spiral of endless economic exploitation and the pursuit of power for the sake of power. How do we escape this death plunge and madness that consumes us? By returning to the kingdom of enchantment, as silly and ridiculous as that sounds for modern man. Ishmael is saved because Ishmael is the only one to free himself of Ahab's will. In freeing himself from Ahab's will, Ishmael returns to the enchantment he had experienced earlier in the novel, his only true moment of freedom and self-creation. This brief freedom in enchantment that Ishmael experienced is the hope for us all, but a hope that few will find. In the midst of our voyage, we must, as Melville hints at through Ishmael, come to accept the ambiguity of beauty and terror in nature, which leads to those few fleeting moments of serenity. O grassy glades, O ever vernal endless landscapes in the soul, in ye, though long perched by the dead drought of earthly life, in ye, men yet may roll, like young horses in new morning clover, and for some few fleeting moments, feel the cool dew of the life immortal on them. Melville doesn't offer an escape to the pastoral and enchanted view of life. There is no happy bridge to cross to enter that land of immortal dew on us. Instead, Ishmael's salvation is through the destruction of the techno-tyrannical society that is the Pequod. Alone, Ishmael drifts out into the margins to find his serenity and salvation, partly unconscious, we should add. If our world is going to be destroyed by the fires and engines of economic progress, some of us, like Ishmael, may yet survive the conflagration. There is, ironically, some hope to take in that.